Alan Robson on the big one. Now, we found some calls from 1988 when we started talking about ghosts. I love it when you lot just let loose. And back in the day, before we ever thought to go out to a haunted house or we ever thought to travel the world and do all of the amazing stuff that we've done, we used to do something that, to be honest, I think is as good. It's letting you guys loose and telling us everything you've ever experienced in your life. 1988, how many voices do you remember? How many characters? Maybe how many of you are still there?
Right, our first caller is David from Newton Hall, Durham, on line 3. Hello, David.
Hello there.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, what would you like to talk about? I suppose that's an obvious question.
No,
well, we've got to chop our first one. How was a Wally? However, our next caller is an anonymous female who is ringing from South Shields, and she is on line 1. Hello, anonymous.
It's male.
It is. Hello.
It's male, not female.
Oh, it's male.
Aye.
Sorry. Well, hello, male anonymous person.
Well, I'm kind of nervous, like.
Right. What's your story then?
Well, it was like about 7 years ago. Well, I used to live in Indonesia, you see, and like I lived there with my mum and dad because my dad was working over there, and like now and again we'll get power cuts. Now and again, like when there's storms.
Yeah.
And well, when one of the storms, I looked at like one of the windows where there was like light shining through. Then all of a sudden I seen like a woman standing there, and like she had like white hair, and like she had Jesus sandals on and things. And
so she was an Indonesian woman.
No, she was British. And she was all in like old-fashioned dress sort of thing, and it was just like really weird. She just seemed like normal. But then, like, a few days later, I told my mother, and like, she said that it was just like my mother, like, and it was just really funny, I think.
So how did that, I mean, when you heard that, and witnessed all of this, how did it affect you?
Well, I was shocked.
Do you believe it actually was your mum?
No, it was my mum's mum, because I described it to my mum, and she said it was like her mum.
Right. So, it's...
Your grandmother.
So, as your grandmother, you hadn't seen photos of this woman?
Well, I've never actually seen photos of her before I saw her there.
Yeah. So, the problem is, what do you believe she was? Was she a memory of the past? Was she a ghost, something wandering around Earth forevermore because she'd been naughty or something?
I don't really know. It's just... it just appeared there. I mean, I never thought about anything.
Right, so what do you think about Halloween? That's part and parcel of what we're doing tonight. Do you think we should celebrate it and have a good laugh and go around?
It should be more fun.
Rather than take and say... But some people that say, but people start off for fun, but then they get possessed by the devil and all that sort of thing.
Oh, I don't believe in that. I feel like there should be discos and things, you know, like dressing up.
Right.
I mean, in America, it's really great in America. Because they dress up and all sorts of things. It's just great.
So we should think of it as fun. You don't think that's the way that the devil tempts souls away from heaven?
Well, I think only the bent people go into that.
Right, okie doke. Thanks for being a first-timer, Anon. Good to have him. I believe we have found Eric from Sunderland. He is back. Hello, Eric.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
I believe you've got a bit of a tale to tell.
Aye, there's a ghost here.
Yeah?
The card lad of Hilton.
Hilton Castle.
Hilton Castle.
Yeah? Oh, brilliant.
Now, he was a boy Roger Skelton. Do you want the full story?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Aye, well, you see, he was murdered in 1609, in July 1609. And his body was missing for about 3 weeks. When his body was eventually found, he was headless. And he was known as the Cowed Lad of Hilton, C-O-W-E-D, Cowed.
Yeah.
But the wall that runs alongside the castle here, he used to sit on the top of it with his head dangling from the hair and shout he was card.
Jesus.
Which of course is called in this part of the world. And local people, they said, wouldn't shelter behind the wall because the blood used to drip on them from his head.
Oh, what a story!
What a story!
So, I mean, have you witnessed the card lad?
Myself?
Yes.
Well, if I must tell the truth, no.
Right. Does it feel funny? Does it feel funny being in a place where there is one of the best-known ghosts in the
world? It feels a little bit funny tonight.
Right.
I've not noticed it before. I've been in all times in the dark, in horrible days, and I've not noticed it before. But tonight it does just feel that little bit funny.
So you reckon it could be the fact that it's Halloween?
It's got to be tonight.
Right.
It's got to be tonight.
So what about local people? Do the locals say that they say that they're frightened to be there?
About 30 or something like 35 years ago, there was when they were building the estate round here. There was a watchman's fire tipped over. You know, the old brazier fire type of thing. And he wouldn't come back anymore. He said the coward lad had tipped his fire over.
Do you know why he was killed? Why was the coward lad killed?
Well, he was asked to bring a horse and carriage to the door at a certain time. And when he didn't come, the master went to find out why, and he was asleep in the hay.
I see.
With the horses. And he lost his temper and slew him by cutting off his head with a sword.
Yeah.
And put his body into a pond, you see, so he was missing for 3 years.
So the idea is, don't go near Hilton Castle, otherwise the blood from his severed head could drip on you.
Could well drip on you.
That is wonderful. Eric, thank you for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
First class. What about that? Ooh, bit of a story. Blood and gore. What about that? Do we get any horsey ghosts? Headless horseman? We've got a headless coward lad of Hilton. And can I just ask, I know a lot of people are interested in this. If you're a landlord of a pub or a club or a hotel or a building that has a ghost, tell us about it. We want to know. Tyneside 488 3188. More night owls in a sec.
Alan Robson's Night Owls. Isn't it incredible? I'm loving this. I hope you guys are too. This is taking me right back. You know, where you kind of turn full circle. Incredible. And the pace and the number of calls. Let's have some more.
It's the Night Owls. We've got Justin from Gateshead on 2. Hello, Justin.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got a creepy story for you, Alan.
Let's have it.
I was going... One thing. I was just telling your mama when I was going to Night Owls.
Okie doke.
And so, like, my mum used to live in Long Benton, like, you know. And there was... My nana's house was supposed to be built on top of a monastery.
Was it?
And there was supposed to be monks in there, and I'm not sure if any of them were killed or something.
Yeah.
But then it was found down, there's like an estate there. It's beside West Farm Avenue or somewhere. And so there's like my mum's, and like all the families had like ghostly goings on there. And my mum walked into the toilet one day, and there was a see-through apparition beside the toilet, and there was sticks all around it, and it was flaming, and there was like somebody being put to the stake, you know.
Oh, in the toilet. I mean, did the ghost have its clothes around its ankles? Or?
No, not at the time, like.
But what did she? I mean, how did that? Did she immediately move house or what?
No, well, there's like a few more things because me 2 uncles, like, got 2 brothers on there as well. And then one day, me Uncle John was in the toilet, and he was rattling on the door, and he was shouting at my other uncle to like get off the door, you know. And he went in, and this door just stopped, and it was throwing him about. It was violent, and then the other uncle was just lying in the bed. And then I think it's been following people around since I've moved, because my nana's moved now, you know. And even here today, I went to see Prince, you know. There's a plug for the most talented man.
Yes.
And I had my tickets on the wall, and then just 2, and then there was one on my door. Then I woke up the next morning, I think it was after Halloween, and they were rearranged all over the wall, like in a pyramid thing. And then it opened the 2 locks on the back door, and then the fire came on. And then all my other relations who used to live there had like ghost things, and like a hand jumped on me nana's throat a couple of weeks ago, and it was like choking her. And so it's just not like senile and out, you know.
You sound to me though as if you totally believe that these things actually happen. You do, don't you?
There's a couple that's happened to me, or we had, like, you know.
So beyond coincidence and beyond anything else, I mean, it could only be a ghostly thing.
I think so.
Right, well, fascinating stuff, Justin. Thank you very much. Exactly what we're after.
Right there.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye. So in that case, again, the Northern Ghost experience there, actually, physical presence. You saw it, you felt it. Well, I mean, that is a big deal. And what about a burning monk being burnt at the stake in your toilet? So once you makes you want to go seeing something like that, and you can't get in because he's there. We've got Alec Todd next, who's on line 9. Now, Alec is kindly helping us out because we've got 2 night owls in what is renowned as the most haunted place in the Northeast. It's in Blanchland, fabulous hotel, except for the haunted room. It's the Lord Crew Arms, and Alec's on line 9. Hello, Alec.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I believe you've had something to do with the ghost, or you've certainly encountered it.
Oh, yes. She's... Actually, our ghost is quite a nice one. She didn't come to an awful end. She, simply haunts the hotel. She's here all the time. You feel her. She, slams doors occasionally, rocks in rocking chairs, but generally she's here trying to send a message to her brother, who was exiled to France in the 1700s, and she's always trying to tell him that he can come back now, all is safe.
Right.
It's a strange story, but she's certainly very much a presence.
So what about the ghost herself, though? You have encountered something to do with the ghost?
I've certainly felt her presence. Lots of people, and certainly lots of people who live in the village, know that she's here, and quite a few have seen her. But one senses her in the room, you sense her on the stairs. She's very much a presence in this building, and she's been here a very, very long time.
The thing that some night owls will maybe find hard to understand, you know the feeling when people describe it as, oh, somebody's just walked over my grave, and you get that sort of involuntary shiver. Is that what it feels like to have a presence? Because maybe people have sensed what you sense where they live.
I think you more sense that somebody is around, and yet you know perfectly well that nobody is there, or no ordinary person. But certainly, it's not. I don't think it's a particularly unpleasant ghost. This one, although of course some can be pretty nasty. But she didn't have an unpleasant experience in this house. She probably had a very pleasant childhood here. She and her brother. Then they were separated when I suppose she was a youngish girl. Never saw him again, and seems to have decided to stay on here from about 1730 onwards.
Does it not unnerve you knowing that there could be some eyes from the grave staring at your every move?
Not in the least, no. She's rather good company.
Right, well, thank you very much for talking to us, Alec, and thanks for your help with tonight. I believe we have 2 young ladies locked away in the room.
You have, if we can get hold of them.
Right. Thank you very much again. So there we have got 2 young ladies in the haunted room. We'll be getting an update from them fairly soon. But our next caller is an anonymous, one of those ones from Sunderland. It is a lady on 3. Hello, Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous lady on line 3. Are you there? Is there anybody there? We seem to be getting nothing. So our next caller, I know not from where, but I'm about to be told. It is, in fact, Barry. Oh, good heavens, we seem to be, I've just been told in my headphones, we have got yet someone else who is connected to somewhere that most of the people in the Northeast will know. Barry Dixon is on, well, tell me what line he's on, please. That will be handy. He's on line 10. Hello, Barry.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I've just been told that you are from another ghostly place.
Another not personally, no.
Well,
but,
no.
No, I have had a ghostly experience in another place.
So where was that?
It was in a public house, the Highlander Inn at Belsay.
Yes, know it well.
And I used to be the manager up there for about 3.5 years. That was about 2 years ago. So about 2.5, 3 years ago, I did have a little bit of an experience up there one night. It would be, I don't know, about 12 o'clock. And I went to bed, my wife was up there and she was asleep and locked up and everything. Everything was sorted out.
Yeah.
Went upstairs to bed and I couldn't sleep for some, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes perhaps. And I sat up in bed, looked down at the bottom of the bed, I had a strange sort of feeling. And so there was somebody sitting on the end of the bed on my wife's side. And when I sort of strained my eyes, because although we had the curtains were drawn, but they're very thin curtains, and there was a light from quite a bright light from the moon outside. Yeah. And this figure stood up, and then when I looked again, like rubbing my eyes, I was thinking I was hallucinating or whatever, I don't know. Yeah. But I looked again. There was 2 figures just on the bottom of the bed, my wife's side, and I was thinking to myself, well, no, I haven't had a drink, so it can't be that. And something's actually happening here. I was sitting there actually in the end for about, I don't know, 15 minutes watching these 2. Not dressed in old dress at all. They were dressed seemingly reasonably modelled. The chap had trousers on and a shirt. The girl had what I could only describe as perhaps a Laura Ashley sort of flimsy dress on.
We know what you mean.
And I kind of leant forward in the bed, reaching out. towards them, and they actually stepped back, and then they turned as if to sort of be talking to each other or whatever. And I mean, I could see through them. I could see the shadows of their bodies. I couldn't see any facial features, but I could see shadows, and I could see sort of the set of drawers behind them. And all the time I was thinking, I kept turning away and looking back and thinking, what the devil's happening?
Right.
I actually tried to wake my wife up. She woke up in the end, but turned around and started cracking his heads again. But it was, I wouldn't say disturbing, it was quite pleasant, if you like, but nothing untoward, nothing nasty or anything. But it was certainly, as I say, for 15 minutes I was sitting there and shutting my eyes tightly, looking again, and it was still there. And I leant forward about 3 times, and each time they stepped back. And as I went back, they stepped forward again.
You see, the thing that I find strange is if I woke up in the middle of the night and there were 2 ghostly apparitions on the end of my bed, I'd be more tempted to go, ah! How come you felt at peace and at ease with yourself?
I haven't got the first idea. I just, as I say, at first I was thinking to myself, I was cataloguing all the events, and I was thinking, right, well, I'm not drunk because I haven't had a drink. I haven't had anything on my mind recently.
I mean, wasn't it?
I kept looking back and forward, and it was still there.
Is there a history at the Highlander in Belsay? I mean, is there a story that goes with this?
Well, I have spoken to some of the staff. There's a couple that were there, Bob and Elsie, who have been there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And there's various rumours. I suppose all old pubs, particularly when they're up in old farmhouses or whatever, have got a history. Whether it's made up or not, I don't know. Strangely enough, actually, some few weeks before this, I was actually out one night with my wife. I have a dog, and we had the dog with us. And when I came back, some of the regulars and one of my main bar staff and my assistant manager had said they'd heard footsteps from upstairs in the flat. Yeah. The distinct footsteps walking across the kitchen floor, which was the only floor which was just covered with floorboards. And the assistant manager actually eventually plucked up the courage to go upstairs because he knew I wasn't in. And he thought it was a prowler, but there was absolutely nothing, no sign of breaking, nothing. And I sort of, I poo-pooed the idea. I sort of dismissed it and said, no, don't be stupid, it's probably just the floorboards creaking. And of course, when I actually saw them, I mean, I've told a few people the story, but obviously many people don't believe you. And I wouldn't probably believe people myself. I wouldn't have believed people myself until it actually happened to me, and it was, as I say, not disturbing. It was
strange, though.
Very, very strange, to say the least. Yes.
Do you believe they were dead spirits that are? I mean, what's your view on what do you think ghosts or spirits are now that you've actually come face to face with them?
Difficult to say. I mean, having this site that I saw could have been. Well, it could have been anything. It could have been some people that had been there before, had either died there or died somewhere else. Funnily enough, I haven't actually looked into it, which I was just actually thinking to myself there before, why I didn't. Perhaps because I didn't feel threatened or anything. If I'd felt threatened, because I did actually live in the building a further year after seeing this, if I'd felt threatened, I would have certainly looked into it, and perhaps Farrell left, I don't know. But I didn't. I feel, probably, I don't know, perhaps trying to say something in their own way, or just on looking, or whatever. So that's the only time I saw them. Didn't see them before, didn't see them again. But I'm sorry about the laughing here, but I'm calling from a pub which I'm working at the moment.
Right. So where you...
called Flint on the Quayside.
All right, there's the plug. Good man. Right,
it was a very, well, not very pleasant, but reasonably pleasant experience. And
has it made you fear death less?
Yes, I suppose. Yes, probably yes.
Right, okay. I must move on. We've got quite a few calls with other tales. But Barry, thank you very much for calling. It's, again, fascinating to hear somebody that genuinely believes he's seen what he's seen. Thanks again.
Cheers.
Cheers, Barry. Bye-bye. So he's at Flynn's, plug, at Newcastle Quayside. And he believes. Do you? Tyneside 488 3188. Don't forget those numbers quickly. If you want to tell Evo, are you for or against Halloween? If you're in favour, 0898 345 228. If you're against, it's the same number, 0898 345. The last digit changes 82829. Okay, if you're for or against, things are changing all the time there. We have got Rob, a caller from Benwell, after this.
A lot of people say, that was me, Auntie Mary. And we're getting loads of that going on. Keep listening. We got a lot more of this coming your way. And a few surprises in store later too. Alan Robson's Night Owls. Looking back.
And our next caller, Rob from Benwell on 4. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Alan.
Hiya.
You alright?
Yes, champion. What can we do for you?
Right, I'll tell you a story what happened to us tonight.
Yeah, what's that?
Now, I want you to picture the scene. There I was in the kitchen making a nice cup of coffee, and it's going to sound unbelievable, but I was preparing myself for night owls for like the scary stories and that. And I was just thinking about them, and all of a sudden, all the lights went out. Now I just run. Well, when I say I run, I tripped over the dog first. That was in the way because it's completely black, black Labrador.
Yeah.
And I ran straight in, and I fell straight over the dog, and crawled in the front room to tell my mum. And she was more interested in the film, and she thought I was just carrying on. I'd turned the power off because all day I've been, telling her about the Halloween thing.
Yeah, right.
And I taped that thing yesterday, that funny story.
Yeah.
What you had on at 1:30, and she was more interested in the film. That's it.
So what do you reckon you experienced?
Well, it was a power cut actually, because we've got a substation on the corner of the street, and somebody turned it off. So the whole street's been like talking in the front, waiting for the.
Yeah, but isn't it funny that just when you're thinking about something peculiar, or you're sitting down reading a ghost story, there'll be a power cut? Or
Alan, you just had to see my face. My chin just dropped to the floor, and the poor dog's still under the table.
You didn't squash him, did you?
Well, it's nearly as big as me, like.
Right.
Didn't mess away, dog.
So he just sort of sat there and went.
Yeah. This phone call thing about if you believe it. Well, yeah. I'm all for it, actually.
Why though? A lot of people say that you're just opening yourself to the devil and all. They'll take over your soul, and you've had it.
Well, we've had it that long, Alan. You get used to it. I mean, the only thing I don't disagree is when, the young kids, because around the area, I'm right next to Cannon Street School.
Yes.
And, they're playing around there while they're building the new school there. And, it's all open land now.
So you don't mind these bands coming to your door saying trick or treat and with the lanterns and all that stuff?
Well, I let them do all the tricks and treats. Like, I like going along with them all the way, because I want the full works before I give them any money. And that sounds horrible, like.
No, it's fair dues. I mean, if they're going to sing a song, wait till it's finished before giving them the dosh.
Because when I was young, then in this trick or treat, once I said penny for the guy, and someone nicked me guy. Because of a penny. So I'm just getting my own back.
That's brilliant. Rob, thanks very much. Brilliant. Cheers. Bye-bye. They're all like that in Benwell, Our next caller is Gail from Chesterley Street, who's on 6. Hello, Gail.
Hello.
Hello.
Is there anybody there?
I hope so.
Well, I'm lying in bed with my candle, feeling all spooky.
Right.
And I'm listening to all these tales, and I just have to pick up the phone and ring you and tell you something that happened to my dad and my family about 10 years ago now. I'm not going to tell you all the full names because my dad will kill us.
Right, that's all right. So what happened to them?
Well, my dad has always been a bit of a down to earth. I mean, I've always believed in ghosts and everything, but my dad's always sort of poo-pooed it, you know what I mean? And then about 1974, I think it was, yes, he had a very, very close friend suddenly died. He was only 42 years old, and he was like a brother to him. It was amazing, And my dad was just absolutely devastated. They were like brothers. My dad was always a bit of a DIY nut, and he had a shed at the bottom of the garden, and he never ever lent his tools out except to this one man. And this man was such a good friend to my dad. He used to just come, and he used to just knock on the door and shout to me, "Mum, it's only me," and he used to put his hand up, get the key where my mum used to hang it, and just let himself in, and whatever my dad had was his, whatever he had was my dad's. Anyway, he suddenly was 42-year-old, as I said, dropped down dead with a brain hemorrhage, and it was just like the bottom fell out of my dad's world. He was so depressed in that for weeks. But he couldn't I mean, it was about 6 months after he died, he started having these terrible, terrible nightmares, you know, that he felt as if he was calling for him all the time, you know, and it just was not me dad. If it had been anybody else, I could have understood it, but not me dad. He's so level-headed, you know, and I was saying, well, you know, it's probably just the way the grief's coming out in a different sort of way, you know. Anyway, well, 6 months went by, and he started to get himself pulled together a bit. And then they went to this dinner dance one night with another couple of friends. And this couple of friends were spending the night with my mum and dad. They lived at Merton at the time, so they were spending mum and dad, who lived at Easington. And they came in, we had a coal fire at the time, and my mum said, oh, we're going to chop some sticks so we can have, you know, for the fire ready for the next morning.
Right.
So they came in and they went to chop some sticks, and my dad come back. He went out the shed with his friend, and he come back in and he says, what have you done with the axe? He says, I've never been in the shed. So they searched the house, the four of them, me mum, me dad, and the company, the man and the woman, and they'd been out all the night, but they weren't drunk or anything like that. They searched that house high and low. Couldn't find the axe anywhere. They searched the shed, they searched the house anywhere. So my mum says, oh, listen, it's getting late, we'll just go to bed. So they just locked the shed up for the night, and they went to bed. And the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, my dad went into the shed with this man who was staying at the house, and the first thing he saw as he opened the door was the axe standing straight up in the vice. It was just standing there. I mean, there was no way anybody had been in that shed any other time in the night. The lights were all on in the shed. But it was just standing there as plain as day, and there's no way he could have explained it. I mean, it was a myth, and the shock, horror, I mean, anybody else would have been able to accept it. My mum said, well, you know what that is, and me dad, no way, he went berserk. He was so depressed for months afterwards because he just couldn't believe. He said, there's got to be an explanation, there's just got to be an explanation. He wouldn't accept that there'd been anything else. And then he started to think, well, was it his axe? You know? I mean, it was my dad's axe, but my dad started to think, well, did I borrow it from him? You know, he'd had it that long. He just couldn't, you know, he just couldn't get it into his head why this should happen. And my dad was really worried, and he said to me, Mum, he said, hey, I think he wants to be out. I think, you know, he died so suddenly. My theory is he died so suddenly he hadn't realised. You know how they say that some people die so suddenly they don't realise they're dead for a few weeks.
Right, I have heard that, yeah.
And they wander around in limbo, and I think he wanted the axe. My dad said it was his way. My dad said he wanted to be out. Because that was his way of breaking out, you know.
Terrible.
Now, for about 6 months after that, the shed light mysteriously turned itself on. Now, my dad could not come to terms with this at all because he just does not believe in anything like that. Now, I did, and my mum did. We used to just go and turn the shed light off, and we never said a thing, because it would just upset me dad too much.
Yeah, but if it suddenly turned itself on, you must have been aware that something was turning it on.
We knew what it was, but we could accept it. But it was worse to try and convince somebody who just absolute sceptic, you know?
Despite the fact that he'd had it spelled out to him.
Even to this day, I mean, that happened in 1974, and to this day, he will not talk about it. I mean, he says something happened, but there's got to be an explanation for it, and that's his finish, end of conversation.
The house didn't used to belong to the Borden family, did it?
Lizzie Borden took an axe.
That's all right.
Gave her father 40 whacks, is that right?
She knows it.
And when she saw what she had done, she gave her mother 41.
Well done. You're obviously a bit of a horror fan or a spooky fan.
I am. But you see, this is what was so amazing, because my dad thought that everybody was absolutely crazy until it happened to him, and he cannot believe it. And that happened over how long is it now? 14 years?
Yeah.
14 years ago now. And there's been no explanation, and he can't explain that at all. And none of our family can. They've since moved, they don't live in that house anymore.
I'm not surprised.
It was so familiar for him just to come and just knock and say, it's only me. And he would pick the key up off the top, let himself in, and he would take anything he wanted out of there. But I think by taking that axe, he was just letting us know he was still around. But there's no way anybody could have got back in, and just to leave an axe standing up in the vice so that it was the first thing you saw as you opened the door.
Beyond explanation. Gail, I must move on. We've got tons of people on the line, but thank you very much. We're going to be carrying out, hopefully, the first part of our psychic experiment. We're going to build up to get used to the idea of what we're doing over the next couple of hours, so you'll doubtless be able to take part.
I'll be there. I'll be listening.
Bless your heart. Thanks for being there. Cheers. Bye-bye. So there's Gail from Chester Lee Street, and how a ghost story really has changed her family altogether. And we will talk to Mary from Wrighton now on line 7. Hello, Mary.
Hello.
Hello.
Before I start and tell you my story, I must tell you I was very, very nervous all my life. I used to be terrified in the dark and wouldn't go anywhere by myself. Well, the occasion came about 10 years ago. I had to move. My husband got a job away. And we went round looking for houses. And at last, I found the ideal house. I thought it was marvellous. I don't know how anybody could fall in love with a house, but I did. And as we were leaving to take the key back to the agent, I had a horrible feeling that there was somebody in the garden watching me. And as I turned round, I said to my husband, "Look, there's not one flower in the garden. Everything was green privet hedge, green grass, and not one flower," which I thought was peculiar. Well, we settled into the house, and I could see the door handle move and the door open, and I was waiting for somebody to pop their head round, and there was nobody there. And this happened a few times, and I thought I was frightened to tell my husband about this. He's "Oh, you're daft." Well, one day I saw a little girl run past the window. I never saw her face. She had a yellow dress, and as she was running, her head was down and there was long hair hiding her face.
Yes.
A knock came to the door, and I went to the door, and there was nobody there. Now the door handle and this girl happened a few times. And then I had an aunt and an uncle came. We went along the seafront, bought fish, came back, and were having dinner. And we just got to the coffee stage, when all of a sudden there was this loud bang, and all the coffee cups rattled, the plates rattled, and yet the curtains never moved. There was no breeze or anything. My aunt ran out one door to look in the street, and my uncle went the other, and there wasn't a soul in this little short street of 10 houses. Well, I was still frightened to tell them, and my auntie was real Coronation Street. She said, "Bloody Nora, is the house haunted?" And I still didn't tell her. Later on, I was standing washing dishes, and I could feel the breath on the back of my neck, and I thought, it's that girl again. And strangely enough, I was never frightened. I started calling her my friendly ghost. Then I had a friend came from London, and she was sitting on the settee, and she always liked a cup of tea. Well, I like to wash the dishes first. So I said to her, "You sit down with the paper and I'll wash the dishes, then we'll have a cup of tea in peace." She sat down, picked up the paper, and she said, "You're not going to have any peace. There's a little girl come round." I said, "Go and let her in." And when she opened the door, she said, "There's nobody there." And she walked into the garden, nobody there. So I didn't even tell her about it. I thought they'd think I was nutty. A few weeks after, I was standing doing my ironing, and my husband was sitting in another room watching television, and he turned round and looked at me very strangely. He said, "Did you come across the room and put your arms around me?" And he had always said, when I was imagining things, it's those pills you're taking for arthritis. He was very sceptical. And I said, "No, I didn't." He says, "Well, what a queer feeling." So that got over. And then shortly after, I kept feeling the presence of this girl. And every time I went in the bathroom, there was the lovely smell of the seaside, the ozone. I never needed any air fresheners in my bathroom. It was beautiful. And I used to say to people, "Can you smell anything?" And they used to say, "Oh, isn't it lovely? Are you using air fresheners?" Well, time went on, and my husband died. And when we came to the funeral, I brought him home to be buried. And my friend and my aunt and uncle, who had been in the house previous and heard all this going on, when they came back, I made a cup of tea, and I said, "I'll make some dinner, just sit down while I make the cup of tea." And the girl from London opened the paper and she said, you know what? It's a year today since I was here and I saw that little girl run past the window. And from that day on, I never, ever heard or felt that girl. And I made inquiries round and I asked, had there been anybody living there with the little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And they said no. There was only a sea captain and a housekeeper had lived there for years. And I was told that the house was built on reclaimed land from the sea, like they do in Holland.
Yeah.
And the mystery was nobody ever, there was only 10 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And they had just been built not very long before. And I made inquiries and I could never, ever find out. And I just wondered, was that girl trying to tell me something? Because it was always seemed to be on a Sunday that she came. And I never, ever solved that problem. And before, when people used to tell me, yes, there's ghosts, I never poo-pooed the idea because I wasn't narrow-minded. If they saw a ghost, I think, well, they must have seen one. But now, I really believe, and I strongly believe, that there is life after death.
Right, now on that, Mary, I shall love you and leave you. Lots of other people have opinions, and I thank you very much for yours. Well, she strongly believes in life after death. Is this straying too far from the Christian path or not? What do you think? Tyneside 488 3188.
This different to any other show we've ever done, and yet we've still got more and more and more of those calls that were just bang, bang, bang. The Night Owl's at its best.
It's the Night Owls on Metro. We got Paula from the Lord Crew Arms, I hope, on line 9. Hello, Paula.
Hello.
Hello, so you're now in the haunted thingy, are you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel then? What's it like?
Nothing's happened so far. We're sitting staring at the chairs.
Right, well, it's the chairs that are... I don't know whether you heard earlier on the manager telling us all about chairs creaking and the like. Does it feel any... Is there a strange atmosphere? Is it colder than normal?
It's a bit cold, but there's a radiator on, but we're sitting at the other end of the room, so that could be why.
Right.
We tried switching the lights off, but that didn't last long.
What do you mean?
We put them back on again because we're too scared.
The lights out. Joe behind me has just yelled, keep the lights out. That's the way you'll...
No.
Go on, just turn the lights out, okay?
I'll try.
Right, we'll come back and check on you a little bit later, in about an hour's time, so enjoy. We keep the lights out. That's the only way you can do these sorts of things. On line 10, we have got Billy, who's calling from somewhere in Gateshead. Hello, Billy.
Hello.
That sounds like Billy Fane.
It is.
Hello, Billy.
How are you doing?
Champion. So what about ghosts and you? Are you a believer?
Well, I mean, this region's just full of them, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's the castles. There's grey ladies and serpents and all kinds of stories, but I've got, this actually happened. I mean, I saw it.
Yeah, so what was it?
It was one night one afternoon, winter's afternoon, one of those grey, murky, sort of foggy afternoons in Benwell. And this traffic warden, who'd had an awful long day searching for cars to put tickets on, took refuge in a betting shop doorway. He didn't actually venture into the betting shop, but he did stand in the doorway, and then he noticed this guy parked on a double yellow line just across the road, and he couldn't resist it, and he came leaping out of the betting shop and tore across Adelaide Terrace and got flattened by a bus. And 3 days later, huge funeral, you know, there were lots of people there who were delighted to see him gone, and had this beautiful service. And when it came out, was a ticket on the hearse with his signature on it.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Lovely tale.
I've got a really one.
Have you? Well, what is your really one? This really is. It's I keep quiet about it, you know, because people sort of ridicule you about doing it, and I don't like being laughed at. But it was a night some years ago. I was working. There was a time when the nightclubs were big in the northeast, and you know, we used to finish. You'd finish a show 2-3 o'clock in the morning,
and I suppose that makes it sound all the more ghostly, but it really, there was a friend of mine, a lad I went to school with, and he was killed on a motorcycle. He was killed in a motorcycle accident. It was one of those freak things. The guy who his motorbike hit a car, and well, the details don't really matter, but he was killed. He was killed outright. It was just, and I was driving back from doing a show, and sometime afterwards, and I came around a bend close by to where this accident had happened, and I looked in my mirror, and I swear by everything that's gone that I saw him in my mirror sitting in the back of the car, and I turned round and saw nothing, and turned back and looked in the mirror and saw the lad sitting there, and I've never had any other experience like it. I don't profess to be into these things at all, but I saw him there, and I turned round, couldn't see him, and turned back and looked in the mirror and saw him again, and I can't explain it. I don't know why or what, but that's what I saw.
Right, in a word, Billy, if I can just push you on, what I want to find out is, are you in favour of Halloween or against it? Do you think it should be enjoyed and carried on, or should it be stopped altogether?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose it's difficult to say that, isn't it? I mean, my little lad was out tonight, right? He's been out. He had a pumpkin lantern, and he's been playing Doty Apple, and they've been doing the trick or treat thing. And as far as they're concerned, it's just a way to sort of fill a bag of sweets up. And I don't think there's any deeper motive than that, right, for the kids. I think it's in the way that many people celebrate Christmas or celebrate any festival that has some sort of religious depth to it. Many people celebrate it just for what's in it. Just, oh, he has a good night, we'll have a go on this. Right.
So there's no threat in it as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think not as far as taking it in that context. No.
Right. Okay, Billy. Thank you very much. In Panto at Gateshead Leisure Centre as well. We know this Christmas, so we shall enjoy that. And thanks for coming on, Billy.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye. So, little Billy Fane, wonderful stuff. We've got Dee from Washington next on line 10. Hello, Dee.
Hello.
Hello.
Hiya. Yes, I'd like to talk about Halloween and children knocking door to door and accompanied by adults.
Yeah.
Right, well, all it takes is for one child to say trick or treat at the door of a pervert, and he or she might invite him or her in for a treat, and you never know what could happen after that. And now, I do believe in Halloween, though. I do think it's a good thing for children. It's the one time of the year when they can let their imaginations run wild with them.
Yeah, so you're for and against then?
I'm for Halloween. I'm just against children unaccompanied knocking door to door.
Right, is it not something, but in truth, is it not something that maybe you've done in the past, either carol singing or Halloweening?
I've never been allowed to do it.
Right. So it's dangerous. But these, you say the pervert type, do the pervert types actually do things like that in their own homes, or do they snatch in from the streets? I don't know.
Well, I do know of one that has done it in his own home. He's locked away now.
Thank heavens. So in favour of Halloween, basically, but against kids knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Now, you see, there'll be some kids listening to this saying, killjoy, 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 and also saying, it's just because you're tight. Don't want to give them...
Yes, I'm that as well. we've had 5 groups of children knocking our door just tonight.
Right. And did you give them anything?
No. We did the other night. But anyway, I've got another point to make anyway.
What's that?
Right. I hope that somebody from Whitburn calls in tonight, because it's got 2 great spook places.
What's that?
Supposedly. Now, one's a pub that you've been into yourself. It's a Jolly Sailor.
Yes. Right, been in there.
Yes. The sailor was supposedly killed there. I don't know how. That's why I'm hoping somebody will come on to tell you exactly what happened.
Right.
But anyway, he must have enjoyed the booze at that pub so much he keeps calling back.
What about the other one?
That's Whitburn Hall. it was famous for having a pink lady haunting it. And then somebody bought it over, and he must have felt sorry for her, and he built a luxury flats all over the place instead.
So you want the true stories of both of them, if possible?
Yes, I don't know much about them in depth.
Right, Dee. Okay, thank you very much for that. We've got Wayne from Clevedon on too. Hello, Wayne.
Oh, Alan.
Hello, sir.
It's funny, it struck me already, this, right? The last caller said about Whitburn Hall.
Yes.
Well, this is what I'm calling about, the pink lady. I used to go to school at Whitburn Comp and what have you. I'm 22 years old, and I am prepared, right, to go there and find out tonight. I mean, I've been trying for ages to get in touch with you. I've been trying since about 11:30.
Right.
It happens. But I'm not going to go there on my own. That's the thing. I've tried phoning my friends and what have you, and none of them want to come. But I would really like to go over there and find out if this is true.
So why are you so keen, though? I mean, most people would want to run the other way rather than go in search of something spooky.
I just think it would be interesting, really, and I don't know, it's just one of those things, isn't it?
Right, cue for a song there. I'll not take you up on it. Well, I mean, would you go there wearing a pair of Pampers than just to be on the safe side?
Well, I think I might. And my training shoes as well, because I'd be pretty fast if I seen anything.
So what about Halloween? Are you for it or against it?
Yeah, I'm for it, actually. I think it is at the last, in a way, but this thing about the pink lady, and there's also another one about a black butler or something like that, along the lines of the ages. I mean, coming up through the school, that's what you hear, the pink lady of Whitburn Hall. And, I mean, this is spooked. I mean, it's not just me either. I mean, it must be a lot of people that this sort of story is spooked. And I am prepared to go there and find out. But not on my own. I mean, you know, I wouldn't do that. But I think it is true. It might well be true. No, I think it is.
Right. Well, if anybody that has heard you do that wants to get in touch about it, we can sort that out off air. But thank you very much for giving us a bell anyway. We're always interested in finding out people's views on these things. But if you've got a true ghost story, something has happened to you, we'd love them as well. Ring the Night Owls right now. Our next caller on line 9 is Rabbi Wolf. Hello, Rabbi. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So now, I'm glad that you've called in because, again, we often get night owls ringing in with the mainstream Christian view of ghosts and all things that go bump in the night. What about the Jewish faith? How do you react to that?
The Jewish view basically is the rabbis, that is, the sages of old, didn't like them. And yet, they weren't totally able to stop people consulting them. There is, in fact, a very significant, a lovely story in the Bible itself, near the end of the first book of Samuel, where King Saul, Saul is up against the Philistines who are coming to wage war against him, and he goes and consults God as to what he ought to do and what's going to happen, and he gets no answer. And he goes and asks the prophets, and they give him no answer either. So in desperation, he's asked to be taken to the witch of Endor, E-N-D-O-R. The witch is very upset. She sees him coming in more ways than one, because in fact he banned all witches on pain of grave punishment. But in desperation, he went and consulted her. She conjured up the ghost of Samuel for him. And Samuel says, "Why are you disturbing me? Why are you bringing me up?" And Saul very frankly says, "Because I am very distressed and I am very worried as to what I ought to do and what's going to happen to me." And he says, and I quote you from the Bible now, "God is departed from me and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I've called you."
Right.
And then Samuel says very wisely, "Well, the Lord has already given you his answer. You know, by not coming up with an answer, that's an answer in itself."
Yeah.
And then he spells it out and says, "You know, the Philistines are going to win, and you're going to be in trouble. And that basically has been the Jewish attitude throughout. The authorities, the rabbis, tell people to keep away from them, to keep away from astrology, to keep away from anything like that. And yet, they have never been able totally to stamp it out. But what we haven't got is a formal way of dealing with ghosts or for exorcising them. In my previous post, one evening a man came in, rather disheveled, but in obvious distress, and asked whether I'd come along with him to exorcise ghosts from his lodgings or his flat. He said for several nights now he hadn't been able to sleep, and they even pulled the blankets off his bed. And for a moment I thought, good heavens, what do I do now? Of course, there's no prayer book I could turn to. There is no formal way in which I could cope with this. So first thing to do, I thought, was sit him down and let him talk. Find out something about his background. And in so doing, it soon became clear that he was, in his 40s or perhaps just turned 50. He'd lost his parents, had been dead for 20 or more years. But somehow, deep inside him, there was a deep sense of guilt about his parents. Didn't quite know why, but he somehow felt he'd let them down. So I said, look, it's time for the evening service. Come into the service, and we will say some prayers, some memorial prayers for your parents. And I made him say some, and I said some myself. And he went away a much quieter man, and he never came back.
Right, so
I assume that, I dealt with what was essentially a deep psychological problem.
Yeah, but the Jewish friends that I have tell me that you actually do believe in an afterlife.
Oh, indeed, very much so.
Does that not involve ghosts? I mean, is that not where the spirits go?
There it is. We do believe in an afterlife, but there is no doctrine that precisely spells out what happens and what forms it takes. We do believe, that the soul does live, yes. But as for coming back and haunting people, that we're not told.
Right. An interesting point. Do you believe that if let's say the Jewish faith is the true one, and all the Christians immediately have gone up in arms, but if the Christian...
Yes, I wouldn't like to be quite so chauvinistic.
No, but what I'm suggesting is...
I think, we've each got our faith. Let's stick with that, and for goodness sake, let's talk about it.
Yeah, but let's just say...
Don't sort of say that one is better or...
No, I don't want to...
the other, because in the end that leads to an enormous amount of strife.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. What I'm thinking is, though, let us say that one or the other is the path. And I mean, there's Hindu, Muslim, a whole host of others.
Yes.
But do you believe that the afterlife is the same for all, or what? Or do you have to be a particular faith to get in there?
No, I mean, my own personal belief is very strong on that. Yes, of course it is the same for all. Because God is the God of each and every one of us. And he's not going to have favorites.
So even if you're an atheist, you'll still get to that plane?
Sorry, even if...
If you're an atheist, if you don't believe in anything?
Yes, I would have thought so. What the doctrine doesn't quite spell out. Yes, I mean, you can't escape that fate. I mean, if you believe in an afterlife, and if you believe in an all-powerful God, then as I do, then whatever somebody else may or may not believe, whether he believes in God or not, sooner or later he's going to have to face up to him and meet him, whether either in this life or the next one.
Right, so Rabbi, in a word, are you for or against the celebration of Halloween? How does that fit in with the Jewish faith?
A very personal one,
yes,
not
please.
a religious answer.
Okay.
Provided the party is good enough, I'm willing to go.
Well, Rabbi Wolf, thank you very much for joining us. Glad to get that particular angle. It's an interesting one. Our next caller is an anonymous lady from Gosforth who's on line 4. Hello, Anonymous.
Oh, hello there, Alan.
Hello, darling.
I spoke to you, a while ago. I don't know if you'll remember me. Remember, I was on about ravens.
Oh, yes. Well,
yes,
you don't talk about them often.
Sorry, I hung up.
That's all right.
I do apologise. Well, what I wanted to say was my mother passed away. And that night, the thing is, various families, we were all up awake. And this was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we heard this knocking. It started and it sounded like it was coming from underneath the bed. very persistent, and it grew quite strong, and then it sort of gradually ebbed away. While this was happening, I sort of thought, well, somebody's trying to attract our attention. Various members, relatives were all over the house. So I was nearly halfway down the stairs, and it just stopped. The next day, I spoke to my uncle, who happened to be he was skipping down in the living room, and I said, oh, by the way, did you hear that knocking? And he said, yes, he did. He, in fact, thought we were trying to attract his attention. The other thing was that same night, the light went on. At least my sister, she sort of saw the light come on underneath the door.
Yeah.
And she thought someone was going to come in for a glass of water, because she was while they were sleeping in the breakfast room. But obviously, nobody came, and my uncle apparently had to switch off the light, which he didn't put on to start off with. The last thing I want to say is the day of the funeral, I sort of was still with my aunts, and it was about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I sort of walked up to the bathroom, and I was sort of washing my hands, and I happened to glance at the room my mother occupied when she came down. And I was just sort of, stood stock still, and I'm afraid I did get a bit alarmed, because the next thing I know, I was sort of yelling my mother's name, and my relatives downstairs, they heard me, and they sort of ran up the stairs. But by that time, the door gradually, sort of stopped, and I sort of told them this, and of course went into the room, and there was no windows open, nothing at all. Somebody said in the house, oh, don't worry, you've sort of got your mother's spirit. But I just can't explain it, and it did happen now, and it was about 5 years ago. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Right, it's just strange, though. Are you in favour of Halloween, then?
Like if it's kids' celebration, nothing sinister. I don't believe in sort of dabbling with anything untoward.
So you think something like that could happen? It could sort of, possessions and stuff could take place?
Well, I don't know. I've never experienced something like that. And I must say, I was sort of nervous. Afterwards, I was, I thought maybe, I didn't see anything, but I thought, oh, well, if it was my mother, I'm not saying it was, my goodness, but maybe I thought, oh dear, I'm frightened, no way. But the time I was just staring at the door, and it really bolt up. It wasn't, if it was a breeze, it would probably have blown open. But it was like as if someone was behind it and was sort of going back and forth with the door. It really sort of bolt up, and it's like seeing something like that, and you think, what's happening, and I think I just yelled out.
But you did. Right, well, thank you very much for chipping in and on. I'm glad for that. We actually have another lady caller who is ringing from Stockton on line 4.
Hello.
Hello.
Alan?
Yes?
Listen, I've got something to tell you.
Uh-huh. Yeah? Go on. Right. Oh, dear. We're getting strange noises now, and we've lost her. So anyway, we shall try and get that lady back.
You with the blade, Alan Robson. Get to those telephones, but not necessarily tonight. Anyway, let's have our last thrilling installment of that absolute bombardment, if that's a word, of calls about the dark, the weird, and the downright peculiar.
Alan Robson on the Night Owls. Now we've got the Reverend Robert Ward, who wants to tell us what his views are on Halloween. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Hello, sir. Now, I believe you're very much against Halloween. Why is that?
Well, I think it trivializes evil, and anything which does that is a dangerous thing to do, because there's a very real spiritual battle that's being fought between good and evil, the two kingdoms. Jesus is the King of Kings and Satan is the King of Darkness, and anything which attracts young children, indeed anybody, into the dark kingdom is to be discouraged at all costs.
Now, the Bishop of Durham earlier obviously said it's, as long as you have a good laugh and you don't take things too seriously, there's no big problem. Why are you so convinced that people can actually be possessed through opening the door in such a manner?
Well, as a minister, as an evangelist, as someone who preaches the gospel of Jesus, I have seen countless occasions, situations when particularly young people who've been involved with Ouija boards and Dungeons and Dragons and things which would be described as a cult have been affected very seriously, psychologically and sometimes physically. And so I've seen actual examples of people who've been possessed and very seriously troubled by supernatural power of evil.
Right. What about possession? Your experience of it? A lot of people think, it's just somebody whose brain isn't quite functioning. I mean, do you genuinely believe that people have demons inside them?
I think that it's very possible indeed that if you open your heart or your inner being, so to speak, to evil, then evil spirits are looking for an opportunity to get in, and that's exactly what happens.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, you mean in my ministry?
Well, either yourself or within your ministry.
Yes, I have. I mean, I first came into this and understanding of this when I was going through a period of acute uncertainty in my own life. I did a foolish thing and consulted a fortune teller. And as a result of that, I became depressed to the point of considering suicide. It wasn't until I became a Christian and gave my life over to the Lord Jesus that I realized the foolishness of what I'd done, and I needed, at that time, what's popularly called exorcism or deliverance.
So you believed your depression was a demon?
It certainly was a major cause, and I was prayed for in the name of Jesus. Somebody prayed, and it was an exorcism, and I was completely set free. So I have personal experience in my own personal experience, and then in my ministry, as I say, I've prayed with a good number of people who have certainly suffered from that themselves, and I've seen after praying for them complete transformation, and where it's been depression, a healing. I prayed for somebody who had anorexia, and demons were cast out in that situation, and she was healed miraculously and instantaneously.
Well, how do you answer the Bishop of Durham's point from earlier when he says that people who react to Halloween in the way that you obviously feel sincerely about, I'm sure, that attracts more people to it because you've kicked up a big fuss? You made a hoo-ha.
I think it's important to warn about danger where you see it, and I get upset, and many Christians, of course, get upset when they see young children being encouraged to learn about these things as though they were okay when they're not okay. It's like encouraging children to smoke cigarettes or to do anything which we as adults know is going to lead them into addiction or harm. Obviously, the Christian minister knows that there's something utterly real about the supernatural power of evil, which, of course, in the end, only Jesus can conquer.
Right, so this flies in the face, again, of a lot of what we've heard from, again, the rabbi, the bishop, and even Billy Fane, who rang in saying, well, his kids have been out they've had a pumpkin lantern, they've filled their bag full of sweets, and they feel very pleased with themselves. But I don't think they're demonic or possessed, Billy's being. I know they're naughty kids. But
I didn't say that they were, but I'm saying that a fascination with evil is an open door. You were talking about considering openings and so on, and there's a very... What you're doing is you're inviting evil spirits to enter if you give them an opening, and that's what Christians are concerned about.
Right, now, on saying that, though, you say that it's the opening and we've got to face it as best we can. But again, it's by speaking out and saying... I suppose it's the same as when you talk about drugs. Why do people use drugs? Because they're banned. If you ban Halloween, are you not likely to create an even bigger cult or subculture that tries very hard to get involved with it, purely because it's banned?
Yes, I don't think you can ban Halloween. All you can do is warn against its dangers. I think the devil's going to find... he'll find his ways in wherever there's weakness or wherever there's curiosity, wherever there's deliberate carelessness, he'll find his way in. You can't ban it. You can't legislate against witchcraft.
Yeah, but what about those people that would maybe point the finger at you and say you are terrifying people to try and get them to turn to God? I mean, is that the right way around it?
Well, I hope that's not what Christian evangelists are doing, the church is doing. I hope it's by preaching the love of Jesus, which casts out fear. See, the great danger of the occult is that it fills people with fear. The amount of people that are addicted to tranquilizers and antidepressants because of fear and anxiety, that Jesus is the antidote to fear. I mean, the Bible says, he says that perfect love casts out fear.
Yeah, but if that's the case, how come that... I'm not directing this to you, but evangelists in general, why is it that we hear so often... turn to God or else? That's what it comes across as to a lot of people, isn't it?
Well, it's true. Jesus said, no man comes to the Father except by me, and it would be much easier for the church if he hadn't said those things. Of course, a lot of church people say that he never said them anyway. They were misrepresented and misreported in the Bible. But I think it is fairly clear from a fairly literal and simple reading of the New Testament that Jesus understood clearly there were two kingdoms, the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light, and the crucial need that each one of us has to be transferred from the kingdom of darkness or to a kingdom into the kingdom of light, and the need to be saved. And that's why the evangelist and the church preaches the need to be born again, and that's what Jesus taught, and that's what Christians do.
Is that not a sort of holy blackmail?
Well, I suppose you could call it that, but I think that for someone who for whom it's a real experience, all you can do is say, well, it's happened to me, and you can preach it and encourage people to consider it and, in the end, make their own decision.
Yeah, but
I wasn't blackmailed into it. I went through a period of depression and saw the light in a measure and asked Jesus to forgive me of my sins. I received forgiveness, and the depression went, and there was a joy and a peace which I never had before. And I just believe that I've been called to share that truth with whoever wants to listen. I really do.
Well, Robert, I've been happy to listen. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You, Alan.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Well, there you go. I had a go at him and he still blessed me. Now, is that not a Christian? Tyneside 488 3188. And, in fact, the pubs are shut as well, so there'll be a lot of people blessed by around about now. We've got... Who we got? Oh, we've got that lady back. The lady's been cut. Apparently, she's told Brenda on our switchboard it's some sort of... Well, things have been happening in the house that she doesn't quite understand. Hello?
Alan, hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, well,
Back
look,
again.
I ran up to tell you, Alan.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to tell you was, like, we've got...
Oh, she's gone again. Whoa, steady boy. We've got Colin from Felling, I hope, if he's there, on line 9. Hello, Colin.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, sir.
I usually like night owls a lot, but tonight you've really put the wind up me tonight. Because I had an experience 3 years ago, and I'm still having the experience of it now.
Yeah, what was that?
In a small way. That was 3 years ago. I went on holiday with some relatives, and I had a bit of an argument. And I said, well, an argument is an argument, and that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. But somehow it came back home with me and continued. And one night I went to bed after being out, and I thought my friend had wandered into my room. You're talking about what? 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, that's funny, he doesn't normally do that. So I managed to get up, and I noticed that he was sleeping in the sitting room. So I went back to bed, and I suddenly realised I couldn't get up anymore.
Cheers, what was that?
I was absolutely frozen stiff with fear. So the next morning I told my friend, I said, were you up? So he said, no. I said, well, I'll tell you something. I said, I've had a visitation. And he wouldn't believe it, which obviously you wouldn't,
yeah,
you?
I would imagine you wouldn't, no.
So, over that weekend, on the Saturday in broad daylight, he was in the kitchen making a cake when the kitchen door slammed shut behind him on its own. That night, the lights were switched on when we were out. We had to have the lights off when we left the house, and they were on when we came back.
Oh, yeah.
So the tension grew and grew and grew to the extent where I couldn't sleep for a fortnight. I had to sleep during the day.
So does it still affect you now? You mentioned that you're still having problems.
Oh, yes. Not so much now, but occasionally when me family tend to, help the best way they can, with me being disabled, occasionally the tension builds up a little bit, and then I start jumping.
Right. So you need a bit of a safety valve, somewhere where you can go and calm yourself down and sort yourself out. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody's been hurt by a spirit or a ghost or anything of that sort, directly anyway.
Basically, they tend to do funny things around the house, like slam doors, switch lights on, basically to let you know they're there.
So you think the northeast ghost is of the poltergeist sort, the troublesome pest?
Well, the trouble is, in my case, apparently it's an ancestor. It's me great-grandfather who I never knew.
Does that not make you feel better, though? Because family, there's less likelihood of your family hurting you or injuring you.
Well, it doesn't, to be honest with you, it doesn't help me at all, because the simple reason I never knew him, and at the same time, if I get annoyed or frustrated, he gets annoyed and frustrated.
Right.
Sort of thing, and in the end, I end up paying for it.
Right, well, let's hope you don't, and thank you very much for being part of the Night Owl crowd tonight. We want to hear more calls from people that have genuinely believe they've experienced something. Exorcism, anybody been exorcised? We heard earlier that our friend Robert had. Well, have you? Tyneside 488 3188. A gentleman's called us, he's a teacher, I'm told, at the Royal Grammar School, and I think he may already have left. However, he was a teacher at the Royal Grammar School, and he's connected to the Scripture Union. Wonder what they have to say on such a subject. The gentleman's name is John Stevenson. Hello, John.
Hello.
Hello. Now, what is your view of Halloween, then?
I'm sort of very concerned, especially about the emphasis that's given to Halloween in schools. I think most schools that spend a lot of time on Halloween are at the younger end of school, the primary, the infant, junior school, and where children there are very impressionable, very vulnerable. And I think it's very important that we give a very clear picture to those children of right and wrong. And by, in a sense, glorifying, making fun of Halloween, we blur the difference and the distinction between good and evil in the lives of those children. I think there's also a danger that we might even communicate to them the idea that evil is fun. I mean, we would complain, there'd be public outcry if we portrayed let's say Nazi ideas or wrong ideas as things for admiration to young children. But nevertheless, we do that as far as witches are concerned. As far as witchcraft's concerned, we sort of make fun of it, pretend it's great fun. And children of that age are very, very impressionable.
Well, they are, but if you look at figures of evil, I suppose Dracula is a figure of evil, and Frankenstein's monster, and all these characters, witches certainly, they're evil things. In whatever story you read, they always get their comeuppance at the end. I mean, is that not a strong enough moral to overcome anything?
Well, I think that might have been true when you and I were children, actually. But if you read many children's books these days, in fact, the witch is not portrayed in that sort of way. It's portrayed in a way that makes the witch a sort of lovable, nice character. And less the idea of good and evil competing and good winning out, which, of course, is the traditional view of Halloween, All Hallows Day is about good winning out. That's less and less portrayed in children's books. Instead, we get this glorification, I think, of the ideas of evil. The idea of evil, in fact, in the upcoming and winning. And I think we've got to be careful about those ideas that we communicate to children. I mean, I think back myself to perhaps some very fantastic things that I used to watch on television. I used to watch Batman.
Yeah.
But notice that they used to always give a warning at the end, and I used to laugh at it, Remember, children, Batman can't really fly. And I think we need to be aware that if we're not careful, what we actually portray to children is to give the idea that, well, this is just a bit of fun, it's good fun, it's not evil, and we forget to give the warnings alongside that, and that gives a wrong picture of the dangers as an increasing interest in, as Robert was saying, in the occult.
Yeah, but I suppose the idea, though, of a school, and we know this has happened, a lot of schools have said, right, we're having nothing to do with it, we're not getting in, a lot of schools say, make a witch's hat and paint a picture with a witch on and all the rest for Halloween. A lot of schools have said no to that now. Is that not turning the kids to seek it elsewhere? Would it not be better done in school, where the teachers have control of it?
I think that my concern is that they give too much emphasis to Halloween in those situations. You see, there's many more useful things I think can be done curriculum-wise, even within that context of the curriculum, that time of the year. There's many things that could be done. For example, if you were doing Halloween in the previous fortnight, okay, and quite often it may take a week in these sort of school situations. That was also the week leading up to One World Week, where we're concerned about the rest of the world and the resources in the world. And that would have been a much better emphasis, I feel, to do that than to talk about something like Halloween and give the wrong emphasis. And as well, you said that some schools are obviously not doing that. They're not doing Halloween. But there are many schools still where that's an emphasis. Certainly the school my children go to, that's something that's come up. And I have friends at school in the city where they had a story about a demon, and they had to, their afternoon work, we had to go and draw a picture of a demon, and certainly a number of the children were quite disturbed by that. And that emphasis is dangerous. I think we should be looking for more positive, creative influences to get across for the children.
I mean, you'll know yourself, Baines are fascinated in in being even frightened themselves. And if you look at the Grimm's fairy stories and all the rest, and tales of dragons and tales of monsters, I mean, is that not what all Bairns grow up with? They grow up liking to be frightened, and Daddy's bedtime stories often picture that. I mean, even Disney films. Look at Disney films. They're full of weird monsters and critters and witches, aren't they?
But the balance of that is that always in that you have the compensating side of good against evil, and often at the moment in schools, when emphasis is given to Halloween, we're portraying the evil side to the detriment of the side of good. And we're actually giving evil an ascendancy and a place in the school curriculum that is far beyond the proportion that we ought to be giving. And that would be my main concern. That It's not that we want to say to kids, well, you know, you don't want you to read about witches, or we don't want you to talk about fairies or anything like that. Obviously, there's dangers in that. But what we want is a balanced approach, and also something that emphasises the good side, the fact that good is there, that there is a power of good and evil. As Rob was saying, these things are real. And we want to emphasise that there's also a power of good, and that power that wins out. All Hallows Day is all actually about the fact that good triumphs over evil. And when we come to Christmas, that's actually all about the fact that in the end that good's going to win the battle over evil, and that good's going to win out over the devil.
Right. Well, thank you. You're obviously against any sort of celebration or hoo-ha being made over Halloween. It should be played down, you feel?
Yes, I do. I think it's far too important, and it seems to be on the increase in society, and something we will be against and playing down. And certainly, you know, I think there are other people I've talked to across Tyneside who are concerned for their children who don't get a choice in this matter.
Yes,
what they have to study.
Various pressures. They see their mate with a lantern, so they want one, and off they go. Right. Okay, Joe. Thank you very much, John.
I've been doing this since the dawn of time. Who's going to be short of calls? Anyway, here's another belt for you.
You're with your flashing blades on the Night Owls programme. Now, what we're going to do is we want you to sort of concentrate right now. We want you to concentrate very long and hard. Pick a point of light. Again, if you want to grasp the hands of members of your family, you can do that too, because we are told, and I know we're having a bit of a light-hearted look as well. We're mixing this serious and the light-hearted, but we have been reliably informed that if you gather together and you hold hands with anybody that you happen to be with, don't talk, don't speak, but focus on a point of light. Nothing too bright that'll damage your eye baubles. We don't want that to happen. But focus on it, concentrate, and you can think of an opening. And I know that people have pointed the finger and said it's naughty poos, but all the rest. But if you concentrate very hard. Do it now. Concentrate. Keep trying. Something might just catch. No, I didn't catch that time. Let's try again. Now, come on, hard. Try harder. Try much harder. Come on, try. Come on, Nelly, you're nearly there. Come on. Come on, you're trying. Try harder. No, we'll have to... Nelly! Oh, dear. Right, now what we want... we've had a couple of daft goes, I know, but what we will be doing in the next hour, we're going to do it seriously. Next time round is the serious one. We had to... Because really, for those people that think Halloween's a laugh, we got to enter into it that way too. So we'll have a go. But we'll try seriously in the next hour. And we are promised that if we actually do take it seriously, something somewhere will happen. Somebody rang in saying, it'll be just like Ghostbusters. There'll be ghosts fleeing about out of the northeast. Well, yeah, blame us if it happens. We've got Michael from Concert next on line 1. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, sir. What's your tale? I think you've got a ghosty one.
Yeah, I've got a ghost story for you. Well, yeah, this happened about 16 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm 21 now. I used to live with my mum and dad down at a place called High Westwood. Don't know if you know the place. It's outside Concert. And we were walking up one night by about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
By fire engines and all that. Mm-hmm. And the house next door to us was empty. And it was on fire. But the fire brigade got the fire out. And so we thought nothing more of it. Went back home, went back to sleep. But next night things happened. Like I say, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I got an experience that night. I was in the bedroom by myself, asleep. Mm-hmm. And I like sleep face to the wall, remember. And suddenly I got a tap on the head. Like a human hand on the head, tap on the head. And I woke up, looked around, and I got such a fright. There was an old woman standing next to us. She had like grey hair and like a black dress on. So, it was like telling us to come with it. But I was just like, didn't understand. So it was saying, come, like pointing the door. The door was shut.
Yeah.
I was pointing the door. And then I just panicked. And I screamed. And I screamed.
Yeah, I bet.
I was frightened. And
no shame in that.
It like vanished, disappeared, thin air, gone. So I went in my mum's room, screaming, I've seen a ghost, I've seen a ghost. So Mum says, okay, settle down, come with us. And went back to sleep. The next day, I told my dad.
Yeah.
They believed us, like.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until a bit older, my mum told us who it was my dad's mother. Came to visit us.
So did that make you feel any better, knowing it was family?
Well, not really, no.
You sound as if you turned white and all your hair stood on end.
I did.
So what do you believe then? Do you think it's somebody that is neither dead nor alive, somewhere in between the two? Or what do you think a ghost is?
Well, yeah, I believe in them.
So because you believe in ghosts, does that mean that you're against celebrating Halloween or for it? I mean,
no.
I would presume you're against.
No, not really.
So you think we can still celebrate it without getting into ghostly hands? Right, okie doke, thanks for that. Ooh, bit of a chiller. Well, have you had a similar tale? Give us a ring if you have. We've got our ladies back, and I'm just about to be told what line our ladies are on. They're on line 10. They're in the Lord Crew Arms. It's Trudy Reid and Paula Brown, a couple of night owls tucked away in Blanchland. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. So you had the light out?
Yeah, we've been sitting with the light out all the time.
Any creaks, any noises?
No, not really.
Not a thing?
No.
Heavens.
I'm not scared anymore.
Oh, I see. You come round, you're getting your bottle back now.
Yeah.
One thing I'm sorry to tell you is, we had two ladies at a haunted castle.
Mm-hmm.
We've never been able to contact them. We know they're there, but we don't know what they're doing because for some reason we can't get through to them. We've checked it all out. There's nothing wrong with the gear, but something wrong down there. So I think you're very lucky. You've missed the ghost. Maybe you've got another hour in the dark to sit, and you never know. There is time yet because she never leaves that building, we're told. So good luck, but thank you very much for being so brave. Our next caller is Mr. Qureshi. Now, Mr. Qureshi is the leader of the Muslim community in Newcastle, and, well, we've had the Jewish view, we've had the Christian view, both sides of the Christian view. Let's see how the Muslim faith believe or disbelieve in all things ghostly. Hello, Mr. Qureshi is on line 8, I believe. No, he's on line 9. Hello, Mr. Qureshi.
Hello.
Hello, sir. So, what is the Muslim view on ghosts? Do you believe in such things?
Well, the Muslims believe in the existence of good and evil spirits.
Mm-hmm.
But the exact sort of northeast ghost that is being talked about is non-existent in the Muslim theology.
I see.
And I think since the Muslim point of view believes that human beings are superior to spirits, that way, even if the ghosts exist, we are capable of conquering them rather than being subjugated by them. So for that reason, I think as a Muslim, I feel that it is not very threatening, the existence or non-existence of the ghosts. But since there is a complete system, we believe that the souls pre-exist our birth here and they exist even after the death of a person here. So we believe in a hereafter, the life hereafter. But I think ghosts as are visualized in the context of Halloween are not really dangerous because they are not so much an evil as they are fun or festivity for the children.
Yeah, so, I mean, young Muslim children must take part, as the rest of society does, in the hats and the ghosts and the skeletons and stuff.
I have no objection if the Muslim children go and take part in these things. They would be taking them light-heartedly and as a sort of festivity rather than as a serious thing, which they would not accept it as a part of their faith, but as a part of the, say, like a drama class or the athletics or things like swimming, or it's an exercise in imaginative, creative thinking, how things can happen, but this is more a dream-like thing, a sort of game and happiness, enjoyment, cheerful sort of thing. And if I would speak personally, as some of your callers have been talking about their experiences, in 1958 in Pakistan, personally, when we were discussing witches and ghosts in Shakespeare with a class, I asked the students whether they had seen a ghost. I haven't seen myself, but one of my students said that he had seen one. I asked him, what did it feel like or look like? He said, well, it looked like a cat. It was sitting on the branch of a tree. I touched it, and it was fluffy and hairy. And I said, how did you know that it was a ghost, not a real cat? And he said, well, when I was passing under the tree, it shouted my name, Punal Shah, Punal Shah. And I looked back, and he said, I am a ghost, and I've been waiting for you to pass by. I'm your friend. I'll help you all through your life if you do not disclose to other people about my existence. And he said, all these years, whenever I've been in trouble, this has been helping. I don't know whether the whole class of students, they got interested in it. And for the whole year along, we used to keep on asking him, Punal Shah, how is your ghost these days? So I think, well, things do happen. And here, in 1985, when I was in Freeman Hospital, and I was being operated upon for a bypass, in the same ward there was a friend, Arthur. He had also undergone some sort of surgery in Freeman Hospital. And the next day, the day before my operation, he said to me, I am a good medium for spirits. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, Qureshi, I can see the face of a slim, athletic, tall man, and that spirit is haunting your bed, and it has mustache. And the description that he gave to me was the description of my father's face, who died in 1975. Although I do not believe in spirits coming like that, but yet I felt like half believing him. And such things do happen.
It's just strange, though, that you say they're not a threat, and provided we treat them in a light-hearted manner. How can you treat it in a light-hearted manner when he's just described your father?
Well, because psychologically I can rationalize that because my father's affection and all the things that he did for me in his life, and he sent me to England to study here, and then later on allowed me to teach here, because my father's influence upon me has been so strong. So when he gave the description tallied, came very close to my father's physical features, so I felt perhaps it is my father's spirit. But I would not believe that exactly it is, because as a Muslim, I have a lifestyle of my own in which I do think that we pray for the salvation and for the good of the spirits that have already died, and the spirits in their own way are also wishing us well. But intercommunication between this world and the world of spirits is not so frequent, and there is no certainty, but there's no harm in allowing your imagination to run right a bit. And so if we make things so tight as mathematical exactitude, it would be very difficult. But being a man whose life is spent in studying and teaching literature of my own language and English literature, so I think a little bit of, fancy flight and release from your very strict routine is always allowing a breath of fresh air into your personality. So I personally think that if Muslim children or alongside Christian children go for fun, it's all right, but they should not think that this is something that actually the evil spirits are around and the ghosts are there around the corner. They will come. Even today, my son, who is 14 years old and goes to Rutherford School, he came and said, "Dad, there is a boy outside and he's wearing a mask and he is sprang a surprise. He rang the bell. I opened the door. He stood on the side of the door and he said to me, 'Trick or treat,' and he said, 'Give me a few pence.' I gave him some and he went out." So children, I don't think the children today are that credulous and that vulnerable to the influence of these things. They are, I think, pretty alert, and they know that all this thing is happening because they want to enjoy themselves.
Right, so you're obviously in favour of Halloween as a daft carry-on to continue. Mr. Qureshi, I've got to actually move on, but thank you very much for taking the opportunity to talk to us.
Cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Very much, Alan.
It's a pleasure, sir. So there, we have got the Muslim view. We were very, very keen to get it. I'm glad that we did. Thank you very much for ringing in. So, well, it's just a laugh.
Alan Robson on the Night Owls. And can I just say that this has been, first of all, I've just been sitting back having an absolute ball with you tonight. Thank you very much, and I loved your responses. Thanks for all of them. Really appreciate them. The idea tonight, though, is to concentrate flat on the calls. And the calls have been amazing and incredible. We're time traveling. We're looking back in time to Night Owls. 88. I'd only been doing it properly for about six years at this point. Prior to that, I'd done the Night Owls on a Friday, the crazy night. And prior to that, I'd done Bridges and the Hot and Heavy Express and a few middle-of-the-day programs that were fairly embarrassing. So, 6 years at the Night Owls proper, and you are hammering the telephone like you still do with stuff like this.
We've got Fran from Cramlington next on 2. Hello, Fran.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh. Yeah. That was quick. Some of the sort of religious people coming on, you know, and particularly that Reverend Robert Ward, was it?
Yes.
I think it was that. Well, you know, if these people, you know, if they profess to sort of believe in God so much, and they believe that, you know, even children going out Halloweening is dangerous, you know, that they're exposed to evil, then if they believe in God so much, do they think that the devil is more powerful than God? Do they think that God is going to stand by and allow that to happen? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but
I do exactly, yes.
It seems to suggest that they've got more faith in the devil than they have God.
Well, we shall leave it for them to answer themselves if they feel strongly enough. Any Night Owls that feels this has agreed with our earlier callers that we had the majority saying no to Halloween at the present moment. That's how it stands. We'll get an update soon. So again, what about pick your most lucid, ghostly thingy and tell us about it then?
Well, I've had quite a few, but I suppose the Night Owls will probably be interested in the one that I actually saw twice, you know.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, it was about 1979. Around about this, well, actually, it was a bit closer to Christmas.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was separated from my first husband, and I lived in Felling. I had a little girl. She was about 2 at the time. And I'd never had anything like this ever happen to me before that, you know. I had an open mind about ghosts. I didn't really believe, I don't suppose. But anyway, this particular week, it went on for a week, actually. I'd had a feeling that there was a presence, that there was something. It was a flat. The flat was only about 10-year-old, you know, so, you know, that sort of puts paid to the idea that it's only old premises. But I had a very strong feeling. Well, first of all, it started off where I would go into the kitchen and make a cup of coffee, and it would feel cold, and I'd get the feeling that there was something watching me. And I just thought it was me being daft, you see. Anyway, that went on for a couple of days, and then it started at night when I was in bed. I felt that something was touching me. And it was usually just when I was on the verge of not actually asleep, not actually awake.
Yeah, the middle bit.
Yes, and I would jump to, you know, and again, still sort of just being sort of nervous. And then sort of the following night, I actually fell asleep. And this happened for a few nights. I had this really horrible sensation of, like, electric shocks. Has always been, you know, getting electric shocks. And a really strong, well, the only way I can describe it, it's not really accurate, but like a zzz, you know, a buzz, but really, you know, making your teeth shake. And, you know, after a few nights of this, I got really frightened because you couldn't sleep through it. You know, you had to come round.
Yeah.
So in the end, I got that frightened that I thought, you know, I can't put up with this, so I'm going to come and sleep on the sofa in the front room.
I mean, presumably, though, if a ghost can go through walls, I mean, going to the settee, is that going to help a great deal?
Well, no, it didn't. It just made me feel, you know, in fact, that's where the ghost actually appeared.
I mean, so what was it then that you saw?
Well, it happened twice, and funny enough, it happened at the same time, 6 weeks apart, but at the same time in the early hours of a Sunday morning. Well, the first time it happened, like I said, I'd been getting this horrible zzz, you know, this buzzing and like electric shock feelings.
Yes.
And I was lying on the sofa, and I had me back to the back of the sofa, you see?
Yes.
But I had a big lamp on, not the main light, but I had a lamp on in the room. Now, at the front of the sofa, there was an electric fire, the clock on there. And all I can actually remember is that this horrible thing started again, and I thought, oh no, you know? And I turned over, and I knew that I had hold of something. And I looked, and it was a person's arm and hand, but I had hold of the wrist.
Could have been worse, I suppose.
Well, the strange, you know, that man that was on earlier on that said he wasn't frightened, it's strange. You would think that you would be terrified in such a situation.
Yeah.
But I was so flabbergasted, I think that... well, anyway, I must explain, because as I had my hand round this wrist, I could see it was like an X-ray in reverse. That me sort of... The outside of my fingers were bright, really bright, and the insides were dark, you know? And I thought to myself, am I dreaming? What's happening? I looked at the clock, because the clock was directly in front of me, and it was 5 to 1 in the morning, and I thought, no, this is real. I'm awake, you know? And I slowly started to take my hand away, and as I pulled it away, the glow... Well, it wasn't a glow like an electric glow. It didn't cast a light sort of round the room. It was just a very intense light on the, you know, on my hand.
Yes.
And as I pulled it away, it started to... My hand came back to normal. Anyway, I don't know why. I can't explain it. I don't know why I didn't look around. I didn't think to turn around or anything, you know.
Yeah.
Just took my hand away, and then I sat up and rubbed my eyes, looked at the clock again, and it was 1 minute to 1. So obviously the experience had taken 4 minutes, although it didn't seem like that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's weird. I've never heard of that before.
Yes, well, the strange thing, well, it happened, not exactly the same, but it happened again 6 weeks later. But some years after that, I was reading a book written by, I think somebody called Jenny Randall, and she was asking for anybody that had any sort of experiences, you know.
Yeah.
And I wrote and told her about this. And I've still got the letter. She wrote back and she said that it was very strange. She didn't know what it was about felling, but there'd been a number of, people that had had strange experiences there.
Yes.
And I was one of them. Now, I didn't know that at the time that I wrote to her, you know. But anyway, the thing is, I didn't feel exactly comfortable about it, but I wasn't frightened. And I honestly believe that if there is such a thing as evil spirit, you know, if they are evil, I think for you to be affected, you've got to want the evilness, you know.
Oh, so there's got to be something in you that asks for it.
Yes, I don't think that if you really believe in God and you trust in God, these things do exist, because, like I said, I've had the proof myself.
Yeah, but does that mean that all atheists are wide open for demonic possession then?
Of course not. I mean, that's not necessarily, you know, just believing in God doesn't, you know, what I'm trying to say is that even if you don't believe in God, it doesn't mean you're evil, does it?
No, of course.
You know, so it's people that actually, I think, that want evilness, that get it. You know, that I don't think you can be possessed just by Halloween, you know. I think you've got to really be steeped in it and want to get into all the sinister aspects, you know, before anything like that could happen.
Right, well, Fran, thank you very much for giving Cramlington story. I'm glad you rang in. And we've had a few different angles there. Fran, strange thing about time moving swiftly and you're not noticing it. Like, sort of time standing still, but when you look at the clock, it has actually moved on. That's different. Is that common? Is that a regular part of the Northern Ghost? We want to find out what a Northern Ghost is. What would a Northern Ghost, if we could put all of the different facets together, what would he be like? What we've tried to do, as you probably noticed, we've tried to cover everything from Christian to Muslim, Jewish, obviously Hindu as well. We want to make sure that everybody is covered, because really, how can we understand people of other faiths and other religions unless we find out what they're all about? Harry Shukla, we're hoping to get in touch with, who's the Community Relations Officer for Tyne and Wear. Harry, we're ringing you like mad, Harry. Put your phone down. While you're engaged, we've got no chance unless we can find a spirit medium from somewhere. However, let us do our best to get you. So just put your phone down and we'll be with you in seconds. We've also got Barbara Buntalani. Now, Barbara, I am told, has witchy connections. Hello, Barbara.
Hello.
Hello. So, what is it? We're having a lot of controversy tonight. We've had the Bishop of Durham and all sorts of people come.
You know, I wish I'd have heard. I don't even know if I'm on the right programme. Somebody rang me earlier this evening and tried to queue me up for this programme, which was Tyne Teas, I thought. Yep, radio.
Right, well...
And I was standing by at 11:15, but I got this call from America.
Yeah.
And so the line was engaged, and I hope I've come through to the right programme.
Well, actually, you haven't. You presumably you were on Tyne Teas. Now, you're on here now, and we'll have you. We'll snatch your hand off, lass. Don't you worry. So, it's Gremlins on Halloween. What do you make of all this? We've got a lot of people saying that Halloween we shouldn't celebrate
I know, it sounds fascinating. I wish I could, pick it up from where I am in Manchester. But what I've heard just over the phone now, you've obviously had a really good night, topical-wise.
It has. So how do you feel about it? I mean, have you been dancing naked, ravishing each other on mountainsides?
No, I've been on a few programmes today talking about the controversy at the moment with Jeffrey Dickens and the Reverend Logan and everything, and I'm quite happy to talk about the whole spectrum of the whole thing, whatever, from my angle or from whatever.
So, witchcraft, what do you do at Halloween? Is it a special time for witches or not?
Well, it's the thing is, it's a strange thing. Really, everybody dresses up once a year. Everybody gets to be a witch, don't they? And wears the pointed hat and so on. But really, that's a bit of a Mickey take of it, really. So I don't know why Jeffrey Dickens gets in such a state, because it's only a Mickey take of it.
Well, we've had a couple of religious figures that have said it is
the first step into evil and so on.
Oh, we've had a lot of that. We've had people going as far as to saying, well, it is a depiction of evil and it makes it acceptable to young children.
Yes, I know, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's been going on for years. I mean, what is it? A bit of treacle toffee, duck apple, bit of parking or something. I mean, these people have got to be sick. I mean, they've got problems in their minds. If this is the first steps into evil, then I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, for a witch to say that, a witch would. If you were a black witch, and I don't know what colour you are.
No, I mean, my gran brought me. I was sort of brought up by my gran, who was Irish and everything. But I mean, this has nothing to do with witches or anything. It was just a night where, it was just a natural thing. Everybody round about had, duck apple and all the rest of it. It seemed to have no evil connotations whatsoever.
So, do you treat it as if it's a religion almost?
Do I treat it as a religion?
Yeah, witchcraft, witchery.
No. Let's get this straight. Most Wiccan groups do. They see it as the ancient religion. I see it as a brand of individualism, getting away from dogma and creed. The way to tap one's inner sources, which are there, believe me. The whole way I came into this was due to my second child was mentally handicapped, and it was a very rare disease, which they said he would die with when he was 2, 3, and so on. Medics couldn't do nothing for him, nothing could. And I was a Roman Catholic and went off and, I actually went to Lourdes, and I went through searching for some hope for him, which wasn't going to be found in any other way than from within myself. And during this time, I came across, I wouldn't call it information, it was weird. I got masses of poems. I wrote this stuff down and we sent it off to the Near Eastern Study Department at Manchester University, and they said it was ancient Hebrew, which I've got no idea of, And there was more and more of this, and during the time that he was having his fits, there was, I suppose now, looking back on it, I would say there was various pressure points, but I had no idea of where I would find them on him. And yet, so I was able to reduce the length of the fits, so that time was cut down. So eventually, I mean, the kid survived. Well, he's grown up now.
Good.
And there's really no reason that he ought to have done, because this disease is called tuberous sclerosis, and it's very, very rare, and people don't survive with it. So there's been more than that, and I thought, well, come on, this is interesting. There must be lots of people who've had their back against the wall and had to tap that something in themselves when all else fails. You know, you say to yourself, there must be an answer, and this is where I found it. Now, if I discuss this, say, at the time with, say, a Roman Catholic priest or otherwise, they would tell you to back off. There's some form of possession, something strange happening here. Well, to me, if I got to this point in time through the normal channels, say prayer, then that's a bit like saying, oh, you really was ringing the gas board, but you got the electricity board. Sorry about that. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, why, when suddenly you start to get answers and things start to work for you, it's as if you've reached your own Godhead inside yourself, but this isn't allowed. It's as if to say, no, that's not for you. You know, the hotline to God isn't for you, darling, or to any other this is for something. So you're not allowed that sort of, how can I put it? Power, then, put it that way, energy source. They say that's not for you to do. It's as if you were being manipulating. They see it as manipulation. To me, I see it as survival. So I don't know.
Right. It's just good that we've managed to snatch you from the jaws of the television people. Thank you very much for giving the witch's view. I very much appreciate it, Barbara. Thank you. So there, Barbara Buntalani, Witchy Poo, and, well, do you agree with her? Or was she doing the devil's work and trying to pull the old wool over your eyes? Well, Tyneside 488 3188. Either way, we've got Connie from Durham who's on 6. Hello, Connie.
Hello.
Hello.
That's Alan, is it?
I hope so, yes.
I just said I would follow a witch, wouldn't I?
What would you like to talk about?
I'm a medium. And I'm a phenomena investigator.
Right.
And one of the things that's levelled at mediums is we dabble in. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say anything wrong about the lady that was on before me, because I don't know their line of work at all. But I do work in the area of the so-called dead. And whereas you do have influences that come for misbehaviour, you have obviously the opposite. And your astral travellers, or people leaving the body, the opportunity, some people leave it and misbehave themselves, some people behave themselves. It's up to you. Right?
Yeah.
Now, Halloween, as far as I've ever known, don't frighten the children. Do look after them when they go out with the little turnips and that. But let them enjoy themselves. Don't tell them it's against their faith or anything like that. You'll only make them worried. I mean, if we're going to feed as grown-ups children ideology, it's us that feeds the kids, isn't it?
Yeah, but does that mean that you, I mean, as somebody that is a medium, you obviously believe in there being something on the other side?
Well, it's only on the other side. It's here.
It's here, well, around us.
Around us, yes.
So, are these people in limbo? Are they dead? Or where are they?
No, it's not limbos, or it's not, I mean, if you're going to say dead, if you look at dead, it doesn't move at all, does it? It's the inner body. On passing away or passing over or death, the inner being comes away from the outside being and goes on to its next step. Or your next room, as you say.
Right.
A big room, though, by the way. And so, really, these people that see or are touched by, you're only passing by the same point at the same time. And because you're told from being little, this is a bogeyman, you get a fright.
So these are not members of families coming back seeking out their relatives?
Oh, it could be your family. You could move into a house where somebody's still there, that although their body went out in the coffin, they didn't go nowhere. Their influence is still there.
But you see, it must be restricted. I mean, there'll be nobody that goes on honeymoon this weekend who won't look over their shoulder now. I mean, we want privacy. We don't want snooping eyes looking at our private moments.
Who's going to waste the time on a honeymoon looking over the shoulder?
No, but in truth, we want people to feel at ease. How can you feel at ease if we're all surrounded by dead people?
Problem, Alan. Now, as an investigator of phenomena, which I've done for years.
Yeah.
When people come for me, mind I don't go to them. They come to me. They knock on my door, and mind they're in an upset state. I've got to calm them down first because they get no sleep. They're interrupted.
Yeah.
They didn't intend anything, Alan. They didn't. Many of the people that I've had to deal with, they didn't intend anything at all. They just were living in a house, and suddenly it's disruptive.
Yeah.
So all I do is I go in and have a look. Mind, I don't go saying there's going to be anything. I don't gear myself up before I go. I go and have a look, see what's happening. Sometimes it can be electricity misbehaving itself. You get the electric board in, the water board, and anything sort of the natural causes, or shall we say, unnatural causes.
Yeah.
But I have had cases where you couldn't rule out that there was something actually there that was beyond that point.
So, I mean, should we be frightened of dead people?
Well, I mean, it's up to you. I suppose many people are. I mean, I would say to you, I'm not. I mean, I'm 51 now, and I've met them since I was 5.5, and the first person I met, for me, it was difficult because it's very solid. And it was just a pleasant lady.
So presumably, on the other side, you can have good and bad as well. It's not just the good.
Nobody's a saint, Sadie, and I mean, if you pass whatever you are, you're not going to change in a click of your fingers, Alan.
Right. Well, as a medium's view, we didn't expect to get that, Connie. Thanks for ringing in. Got to zap on. Lots of people to get through. We have got a gentleman by the name of the Reverend Arthur Middleton. Now, Arthur is actually the advisor to the bishops of Durham and Jarrow on psychical matters. Can't say it, however, that's what he does. So let's have a word with him right now. He's on line 8. Hello, Arthur.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Now, the idea of ghosts have been discussed from all sides tonight, and I'm just wondering, where do you stand on this? The Bishop of Durham says there's nothing wrong with Halloween. Do you share his view?
Well, I think there's a fun side to Halloween. There's a fun side to that kind of dressing up, I think, which is something that the children do, where they dress up as fairies, gremlins, whatever, and they have their fun. And I think in that sense, I don't see anything wrong in that. And I think at that particular level, it is just a lot of fun. And I don't think there is any content of dabbling in witchcraft. It's not operating on that level at all. It's really operating on the fun level of children just dressing up and having a good time.
Having a laugh.
Having a laugh and knocking on the door and trick and treat and all that kind of thing, which I think is quite harmless.
Yeah, but what about, we've just heard from a medium who says we're surrounded by spirits, for want of a better word, members of family and friends. They're surrounding us now as we speak. We're told that, in books, we get the impression that castles are the places for ghosts, and yet it's council estates where you tend to encounter them more, don't you?
Well, I think we can probably describe it in terms of abnormal and paranormal.
Right.
I think that ghosts come in all shapes and sizes. Some materialise, some dematerialise. Some move, some are still, some go through a wall. But come in different colours, maybe headless, whatever.
Yes.
What has to be established is just what these people are actually seeing, because there is a degree of reality in what they do tend to see, but discernment is necessary in order to clarify whether what has been seen is something objective or whether it is a cry for help that has psychologically projected itself.
Right.
And I think that in that sense you can have two instances, really. I can give you two examples. First of all, an example of a 17-year-old girl who kept seeing a dark and frightening ghost, and the boy that she lived with saw nothing. She was hysterical, her family background was appalling. She had been thrown out of the family home because of a pregnancy, had an abortion, and 17 men had been her dad. At 17, she had a second pregnancy and kept the child, but after 5 weeks couldn't cope. The child was taken into care and then offered for adoption. The ghost appeared on the child's first birthday and kept appearing as she prepared to sign adoption papers. The real problem was that she had to learn to let go of the only thing she ever really loved.
Yes.
And the only one she felt ever loved her. And what she was seeing was the sheer fright of her whole life. And it was frightening. She needed liberating, but it was from herself and her background.
So you exercise the mind, not the spirit?
Well, you don't exorcise at all. You counsel.
Right.
There's nothing there to exorcise. It is a question of helping her to understand what is actually happening.
Right.
And to bring to her a concern, a compassion, and an understanding in which she herself can begin to see exactly what is happening and be liberated from it.
So you don't believe in any way the many, many stories that people who I'm sure are quite sincere and quite genuine, I've seen a ghost. You don't believe any of that?
I do believe they may have seen a ghost. On the other hand, what I have to do is to establish whether it is something objective in the sense of an apparition, a paranormal experience of some kind, or whether it is something within their own psychology.
Right.
So let me give you a second example. The second example concerns a family who rented a holiday cottage in a village near Carlisle, and during one night the mother was awakened by a figure of an old woman standing at the bottom of the bed. The wife then found herself digging her hands deeply into her husband's ribs as she tried to awaken him, at the same time that she was telling him that his ribs had turned to chalk. The mother was known to have some kind of psychic element about her, and had been saying during the week that there was someone else in the house. The children were awakened, they put the whole experience down to a nightmare and settled down again. And some years later, one of the daughters went to university and met a young man who came from this same village and whose father had been the village policeman. And in conversation, the holiday was mentioned, and the ghostly experience. And the young man told how this cottage was known as the haunted house because an old lady who once lived in it had died, but she had not been found for some time. And when her body was discovered in the bedroom, her bones had become chalk-like from decomposition. And this example does illustrate the instance of a troubled place. The first example I gave you is of a troubled person.
Right, so we've now got two different areas. In a word, though, Halloween, in favour or against?
I'm in favour of the fun side, perhaps at that particular level. What worries me is the great commercialisation of it and the great hyping of it up in the kind of way that it is today. In the last 10 years or so, it has been hyped up. The commercial boys have moved in, and I think this is a bad side of it.
Right, well, Arthur, I've actually got to move on to another caller right now, but Reverend Arthur Middleton, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Well, we're hearing a lot of things. Incidentally, we got a telephone call from David who wanted me to say happy birthday to his wife who was 30 on just after midnight at Halloween, and love comes to you not from him but from Michelle and Ashley, your two weans. And there's a strange story there because apparently Lynn saw a ghost, and she woke up one morning and she claimed that she'd been ravished that evening by a ghost. And I mean, let's face it, you've got to admire her spirit. We've got on line 7 an anonymous gentleman who's calling from, I'm sorry, couldn't resist it. We've got an anonymous gentleman who's calling from Hebburn. Hello, anonymous.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Halloween has got anything to do with it at all.
Really?
To be quite honest, no. I'll tell you a story as fast as I can because the other callers want to get on.
Good man.
Right. My nana was disabled and she had to go in the hospital about 3 months before this happened, and she went in the hospital.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually the central heating pipes at first.
Yeah.
But as it happened, it wasn't. I opened the door in the bedroom fast one day, and I seen something going in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I thought nothing of that, actually. I just thought it was my imagination. So I shut the door, and it was a couple of nights later. I was lying in bed, and I actually felt somebody pressing on the bed. As if someone was trying to get in the bed.
Yeah.
And, well, I think it was shock, really. I just went to sleep. Anyway,
it's the last thing I'd have done, I'll tell you.
I thought it was shock, really. I went to sleep anyway. But the main thing was, you know the light switch? The light switch used to go off and on, but the light didn't. And I used to actually sit and watch it do it.
What, it used to click?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing?
That's what clicking is. No light used to come on at all. And that's serious.
So you believe, obviously, wholeheartedly in ghosts. Do you think they're something that we should genuinely fear and be worried about?
No, don't fear about them. As I get to the end of the story, you'll find out what I mean. What actually happened, like I say, all through that happened. Then actually my nana died in hospital. And she died on the 8th of the 8th of the month. And my granddad died on the 8th of the 8th of the month.
Ah, what a coincidence.
Yeah. And I've thought from this day, he was, well, in fact, my nana always says, she was trying, like you were saying, come with us. And she says, no, it's not my time.
Until it was.
Until it was, and it come to that date.
Right, what a story. Anon, thank you very much for that. First class stuff. I believe we've got Harry Shukla. We're going to be talking to him very, very soon. Quickly dashing across to... you remember that lady who was on about poltergeists and stuff before? I believe we've got her back. Hello, me lass.
Alan,
Yes.
it's Alan again. It's me
Yes,
again, Alan.
you're through.
I've been listening to your programme all along, and, you know, Pat, I've been really interested in what you've been talking about. Look, I've got to tell you, you see, we're in our house, we've got...
Whoa. Swiftly across to our next caller, who is Harry Shukla. Now, again, we've had Muslim, we've had Jewish, we've had Christian, we've had witches, we've had all sorts. So, in fairness, we've got to try and get everybody on if we can. Harry Shukla, Community Relations Officer for Tyne and Weir, and he is a member, of course, of the Hindu community. So let's hear what Harry has to say. Hello, Harry.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, so glad to get you at last. Good man.
Thank you, I've been waiting.
You've done well. Can I ask you the question, though?
Yeah.
Are ghosts accepted in the Hindu faith or not?
Well, certainly, you know, Hindus believe in ghosts. And in India, of course, you know, everyone believes, you know, and we heard lots of stories. I used to hear when I was a small boy in India that, you know, this is, and that they treat this subject quite seriously, you know, and there are different beliefs, you know.
Right.
One of the things is that people say that, you know, a person who ends his life abruptly, you know, that means commits a suicide.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he becomes a ghost, you see.
So, do you think this is a harmful thing? Are we...
No. I mean, you see, for instance, you know, well, what happens is they don't harm everyone. But certainly, I've heard a story where somebody told us that ghost entered, you know, a person's body and then, you know, caused a lot of harm, you know. The person became very sick, you know, and if you look at, you know, his eyes, you know, glaring and crying sometimes, you know, and became senseless sort of thing. And then there are certain stories where, you know, people say, well, don't pass by that spot, you know.
Yeah.
For instance, you know, unused well, you know, there are lots of wells in India. And people say, well, you know, a person fell into the well and committed suicide. And now, you know, at midnight or later at night, you know, people see him or her.
Yeah.
And those are, and people, you know, I mean, they treat, you know, this subject quite seriously.
Yeah,
and that's why, you know, you find that when a person dies, according to Hindu custom, that there are lots of ceremonies performed, you know, after 10th, 11th and 12th day after his death. And the idea is, you know, to pray so that, you know, the departed soul rests in peace.
Right, but I was always led to believe that your vision, the Hindu vision, of life after death is a little different. What is it, if you can put it in a nutshell for us?
Well, that means, you see, well, what happens, you know, we believe that a person, say, for instance, you know, in present life, you know, tries his best and perform good actions. And so that when, you know, he dies, then, you know, he comes back to earth, you know, in an improved shape. Now, it depends upon the type of action that he has performed. Now, if he has performed good deeds, you know, then, you know, he comes, you know, in a better form. If he has performed bad deeds all the time, then, you know, he has to come back and repay, you know, his debt.
So he could be a worm or a slug or something.
Could be that, you see, and So this idea of performing deeds, good deeds or bad deeds, is very, very important.
Yes.
And but then we also it's also said that the ghost will never go near a place of worship or home where prayers are said on a regular basis, or where there is a temple in the home. Every Hindu home would have a temple, a small temple, whether it's in a separate room or in a separate corner of the room. But and again, where prayers are said, on a regular basis in the morning and in the afternoon.
Yes.
Then you can be sure that ghost will never go near that particular place. You see.
Right.
So it's that strong belief that, and that's why you find that people do perform sort of prayers and lead a religious life. But again, you see, when say people find out there is a ghost around, then again the only way to help that particular ghost is by saying prayers, so that pray to Almighty God
to rest the spirit.
Let his spirit rest in peace.
Okay, Harry, got to put you on the spot finally and ask Halloween.
Halloween, yes.
Are you in favour? Or are you against it?
Well, I mean, you see, it's, I think so. Well, I mean, if we take it in a light-hearted spirit, and I think, say, as long as people take it as a fun, and not to create fear.
Right, as long as you take it in the right light. Harry, thank you very much again. I'm glad we managed to get everybody that we were aiming to get. So thank you very much, and apologies for waiting. Also, we have got an anonymous lady caller from Prudhoe on 3. Over to you, anonymous lady at Prudhoe. Hello.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I was just ringing up to just mention about children and ghosties and goodies. I've got a little boy, and he's not quite 2 yet, right? And there was one night he woke up having had, I think, a nightmare or something, and I was sitting with him, and we sat for a little while, light on and everything, and he turned to the settee and he's going, Man? And I was saying, where's the man, sweetheart? Man? But he wasn't frightened, it's like, there was a man there, but it was quite normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I thought, oh. So anyway, nothing more was said, and about 15, 20 minutes later he goes to bed, and he stood at the door and he said, Night, night, man. And I thought, oh, God. So, anyway, I thought, well, right, this happened a couple of times, and we moved house recently, and I thought nothing more of it, nothing more. And it was the other night, he went up to bed, and I was sitting with him, he's going, Man? As if it was a long-lost friend coming to see him, you know what I mean? And I was telling my family, and my nana thought, it's your granda. My granda died 4 years ago, and I mean, I loved him dearly, I really did. And he never, obviously he never saw his great-grandson, and he loved kids, and I know he would have dearly loved to have seen him, you know what I mean? And so I sort of comfort myself in the knowledge that I think it's my granddad coming to see his great-grandson, So it was quite strange, though, because if I've got a dog as well, and if the dog and the little one both sit and look at the wall at the same time and sort of follow their eyes round, you know? But I mean, I've seen ghosts on a number of occasions, so I mean, I'm a great believer in this sort of thing.
But the idea of your youngster maybe seeing a ghost, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't shock me as such, do you know what I mean? Because I believe that both young children and animals have got this sort of sense that you sort of grow out of as you get older and as you get wiser, supposedly. So you lose this thing. Some people don't lose it, some people do lose it, you know what I mean? But I think young children are so innocent, and if they're seeing something, they see it.
Right, so going to have to close you down because we've got to get this experiment done. What about Halloween? Are you for it or against it?
I'm for it as long as you don't take it too seriously. I think it's great for the kids, have a great time, but I mean, if you're going to look into it dead seriously and stuff, I mean, you might as well forget it, really.
Right, well said. Thank you very much for calling in, Non. Right, so down to business, I suppose, now, and this is the serious part of the programme. I want you to concentrate. Pick a spot somewhere in your room, a beam of light, something that's not going to blind you, not going to sort of affect your eyes in any way. We don't want you seeing spots in front of your face. That's not what we want. We want to try. We're talking to somebody who deals with the American Psychic Research Establishment, some highfalutin fella, and he says if you get 4 people together and you concentrate about an opening, something will create itself for you. It's nothing to fear, it's nothing dangerous, it's nothing like that, but something will happen. Now, we're hoping that if enough people in the north of England do this, that
we've managed to, I don't know, conjure up a northern ghost. What is a northern ghost? That's what we've been trying to decipher tonight. We've had help from all sorts of people, and I'm sincerely grateful. We've had celebrities, we've had bishops, we've had Muslims, Hindus, Jewish, Christians, and the odd atheist and medium and witch thrown in. So do it now, this second. Hands together. Join your hands. If you feel pressure on those hands building up, therefore you're likely to be creating something. So now, pick that point of light. I'm doing it. I've got hold of Joe's with me now. Brenda's with me. We're doing it. So concentrate. Concentrate on that one point of light. Concentrate. Look into it. Think of the opening. Think of the opening. We must have that spirit. Think about it. We want to create something. We must conjure. Concentrate. Do it now. Concentrate. Concentrate. What the? What the hell's this? What's happening?
Is there anybody there? Hey, I'm a first-time caller and I'm very nervous.
What the devil's this? Well, how did you become a ghost then?
You mean, how did I die? How do these things always happen? Too much wine, women and song. I was singing a love song in a deep romantic lake to this other fella's wife. I think I knew him was, and here is how they eat with a bottle of moon here.
What the hell do you ask a ghost? What do you do during the day then?
Me?
Oh.
I frighten men who twiddle with Ouijas.
Oh.
I'll tell you what else I do on one of these STSs.
What's that then?
They're called a spiritual training scheme. I've got to prove that I'm worth taking up there to heaven, you know.
Really?
Most people manage all right. After all, the benefits are out of this world.
So do you really like haunting people then?
What? You mean? Yeah, I do a little bit of that. Sometimes. Most of the fellas haunt Samantha Fox's bedroom or Linda Lusardi. Well, you can't get moved, man. You can't get moved in there. None of the lads would. A howl.
Stop it.
None of that. They just sort of stand there with their gobs wide open. I've told them. I said, if God spots you, he'll know it's a bit naughty. They say it's culture. I'm sure culture doesn't mean you dribble in the gob.
No, but I mean, look, let's face it, there's a lot more people that have died than are alive now. It must be chock-a-block up there.
Oh, well, yeah, man, not all up here. Queen Victoria, Boadicea, he's a funny old trout. John Lennon, old popes, there's a... Who can I see from here? Nah, he looks like Hitler, but it's not. It's that fella that won the Peace Prize in 1937. I don't know he's in here, but they're all here, all colours and creeds. Tell you what, swag. I had an Indian meal with Mahatma Gandhi last Thursday.
Give over.
Nice bloke. Spent the whole time complaining about his Raphael loincloth. I think it was Hawkey's Untouchables.
But I mean, you've decided tonight to come down and appear on Halloween. Why is it that you're so hard to get in touch with the rest of the time then?
What? You've got us new, haven't you? Take. There's no digital car phones up here, mate. No. It's just like you lot shouting up the chimney for Santa Claus. Someone passing on the spiritual plane has got to hear what you're going on about and then give us a shout.
I see.
I'm normally down the celestial betting office, you know.
I wouldn't have thought there was anything like that. So there is a heaven, some people probably would be saying, and But I mean, if you could haunt... well, do you ever go haunting anybody else then?
Oh, I haunted good that, you know. Here we go. I do a bit of haunting. 10 Downing Street I tried last month.
You didn't.
But the sight of those two first thing in the morning scared the living daylights out of us. Anyway, Alan, I've got to go now.
Oh, no.
As they say up here. I've got this bloke at Tiller staying with us. It's some new exchange thing that God's got ganning with the devil. Oh, Mr. Pearsley, isn't it? No, yeah. Incidentally, can I just give you a warning from beyond the grave?
A warning?
You gotta laugh, otherwise it doesn't.
Whoa, what's this warning?
I just want to warn you that I've had a look at St. Peter's scrolls.
Really?
If you'll pardon the expression. And I noticed that your name is not on it.
It's what?
And I had a look on the dodgy list. Ta-da!
Whoa, wait, can you hang on? Just there's probably... There's a lot of questions that I'd like to ask. Vanished up his old... whatever they vanish up there. So, there, it's been a very, very peculiar night. I think you'll admit, on the Night Owls. We've had controversy, we've had guests, we've had you. That's the thing that counts. And maybe we've put ghosts in the true perspective. Halloween, it's all right to have a laugh, it's all right to enjoy yourself, as long as maybe you don't take things too seriously. Again, thank you to all the guests. Thank you to all you Night Owls for taking part so actively as you have done tonight. I think...
Well, I don't know about you, but I actually said, just because we knew this was coming on, we've sent out for a pizza and had a few people popping by as well saying hi. Lovely. Thanks to each and every one of you. But was that not one of the most amazing shows you've ever heard? From me, Alan Robson, good night, God bless you, and I wish you well. Oh, maybe this is how I did it back in the day.
Oh, hasn't been a scary night for you. We hope we've given you the odd collie wobble, but finish with a grin on with chops. Does it really exist? Good stories anyway, aren't they? Hope you've enjoyed the encyclopedia of Northeastern ghosts. My thanks to Jude, Chris and Jane. A lot of people putting this one together. Hope you've enjoyed it. By gum, I think it's been corking. Thank you for taking part.
That's all.
From me, Alan Robson, good night. God bless you, and I wish you well.